Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Shenandoah Valley. My name is Rochelle Broom, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. At this time, would you all please take an opportunity to silence your cell phones for the duration of the service? I'm very much looking forward to Dr. Mullen's talk, and we don't want those little pesky critters going off in the middle, right? All right, well, we are a welcoming congregation, united on the side of love and justice. We like to say, we don't have to think alike to love alike. We strive to walk through this life with open hearts, open minds, and hope that all who walk this earth with us will find the strength and will to walk it with best intent, as often as possible. May the time we spend together today in this place make us braver, more compassionate, and wiser than when we woke up this morning. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism, I encourage you to take note of our mission statement, which is printed on the front of the order of service. We also work to promote and practice the 8 principles, which are printed on the inside of the order of service. It is our tradition to welcome first and second time visitors and those who may not have been here for a while to stand, if you're willing, and let us know who you are and where you are from. Is there anybody on this side of the sanctuary this morning? Any visitors? All right, it's all home team over here. How about over here? Oh.
Yay!
I'm not new. My mom's here from Ohio.
Welcome, Kate. Thanks for joining us this morning. Is there anyone else on this side? How about this side? I see some new faces. Wow.
I'm Leanne Adams, and originally from Iowa, and have lived in Black Mountain since last November.
Welcome.
I'm Maya, and I am originally from Tucson, Arizona, and I've been living in Black Mountain for a year now.
That's her grandma.
That's my grandma.
And this is my daughter, and I'm Ellie, and that's my mom. And I moved to Black Mountain about 2 years ago.
Well, glad you found us.
Yeah.
Anyone else over here? Yes.
Yeah. My name is Flower. It's my second time here, but I've been to the Asheville one a couple times. It sounds like some people like to go back and forth like I do. And I've lived in North Carolina 35-ish days now, from most recently Washington, D.C. area.
Welcome back.
Hi, I'm Cassie. This is my husband, Beto, or Gilbert, whichever he feels like on the day. We're from Texas. We had to leave Texas because the law went into effect on September 1st that affects us. So we are pit stopping here for a month, and then we're heading to Uruguay, South America. So we thought we'd go check it out because we've been UUs for about a decade in Texas.
Well, thanks for joining us and good journey. Anyone else on this side? Well, great. Well, welcome to you all. We're exceedingly glad you're here with us today. If you are interested in learning more about us, or you would like to receive our newsletter or find out how you can be more involved in this community, there's a white card in the back of the pews, and you can also find some on the table out in the foyer. Please fill out a card and either place it in the collection plate today or leave it on the table in the foyer, and we can get in touch with you if you leave us an email or phone number. A reminder to the congregation that the Joys and Sorrows segment of our service is a time of reverence set aside for the sharing of matters of personal high importance and sharing that with our congregation. This time of sharing is very important to many in our congregation. Therefore, we must all be cognizant of sharing the time fairly with other members of our congregation so that all feel they have an equal opportunity to speak. Brevity is encouraged and appreciated. Announcements about the happenings in our congregation and the community at large should be submitted for posting in our weekly newsletter, which comes out every Thursday via email. The current sent to all members, friends, and those who have expressed an interest in our congregation and have shared their contact information with us. If you have announcements that you would like posted in the current, please send those to the office administrator by noon on Tuesday so it can hit the current on Thursday. Announcements may also be posted on the bulletin board in the foyer, and you'll see a lot of them out there as you wander around. It is also our practice to acknowledge that the land where we are now gathered has not always been ours to call home. UUCSB acknowledges with respect that the land we are on today is the ancestral home of the Cherokee and of other indigenous people. The Cherokee, through stewardship, understanding, and conservation, survived and thrived in this land. We acknowledge their enduring connection to their homeland. So now, let's let our service begin.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. For those who don't know me, I'm Andy Reed, and I am the service associate this morning. The service committee is a group of us who are charged with bringing in guest speakers when Michael is away or on sabbatical or having his time off. And so this Sunday, I am honored to be the service associate because we are going to be very pleased with Professor Dwight Mullen, who will talk about reparations. So I have opening words while Diane lights the chalice. They're from John Locke, the philosopher in the 17th century, who was as influential as anyone in forming the ideas of a lot of our founding fathers. His views on the legitimate role of government and what it should consist of are sprinkled through the Federalist Papers and other writings that led to our Constitution. In his second treatise on government, he wrote these words: "Besides the crime which consists of violating the law and varying from the right rule of reason, whereby a man so far becomes degenerate and declares himself to quit the principles of human nature and to be a noxious creature, there is commonly injury done to some person or other, and some other man receives damage by his transgression, in which case he who hath received any damage has, besides the right of punishment common to him with other men, has a particular right to seek reparation." Now today is the second Sunday, so we have a guest musician whom all of you, except the brand newcomers, know, Sue Stone, who is our accompanist on regular Sundays, and for the choir is our guest musician today. So I will leave it to Sue.
So this on?
Yes.
This song comes from the Disney movie Pocahontas. She has a few choice words to say to this know-it-all white man who's shown up on her shores. You think you own whatever land you land on. The earth is just a dead thing you can claim. But I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name. You think the only people who are people are the people who look and think like you. But if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you learn things you never knew, you never knew. Have you ever heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon, or asked the grinning bobcat why he grinned? Can you sing with all the voices of the mountain? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Come run the hidden pine trails of the forest. Come taste the sun-sweet berries of the earth. Come roll in all the riches all around you, and for once never wonder what they're worth. The rainstorm and the river are my brothers. The heron and the otter are my friends, and we are all connected to each other in a circle, in a loop that never ends. Have you ever heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon, or let the eagle tell you where he's been? Can you sing with all the voices of the mountain? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? How high does the sycamore grow? If you cut it down, then you'll never know. And you'll never hear the wolf cry to the blue corn moon. And whether we are white or copper skinned, we need to sing with all the voices of the mountains. We need to paint with all the colors of the wind. You can own the earth and still all you own is earth until you can paint with all the colors of the wind.
Please do come forward with your joys and sorrows and concerns. Diane will light a candle for you, and as Rochelle said, keep them brief.
So my name is Elizabeth Wallace, and this is going to be semi-brief. because I wanted to tell this story. So every morning when I get up, I have Alexa play me music. And this morning, I had her play Bette Midler's song, "Human Kindness is Overflowing. I think it's going to rain today." So Friday night, I was in downtown Asheville, and my car was parked in the Rankin, across the street from Rankin public parking lot, the Civic Center. And it was about 7 o'clock. And I finished my business downtown, and I came to the parking lot, and I got in my car, and my tire was flat. And I sat there and, calmed down and did all the red tape of calling Washington, D.C. Geico, who was going to get me an Asheville tow guy. And he said, "We cannot give you anybody unless you give us the exact building number of where you are." So there's that whole story of trying to tell him the location. So across the parking lot, there was a young woman in her car texting, and I went over and I knocked on her door and I said, my tire is flat, and do you know the name of the street? They have to have the main street. So she got me all set up, and then she looked at me and she looked at the car and she said, "I'm going to stay with you until the tow driver comes." And she walked across, and it took him over an hour, and it got darker and darker. So the tow driver shows up, and we had a party. It was getting dark and a flashlight, and he got my tire on, and he said, "Now I want you to go to the Shell station. It's a donut tire, and you've got to put air in there, and you can't go over 50 miles an hour on the highway." She looked at me and she said, "You follow me, because I'm going to get the air in your tires." This was, relationship started an hour and 20 minutes ago. So I went to the Shell station, where there were a bunch of lost souls on late Friday night on drugs. It was a scary place to be. The technology you had to use to get air in your tire was beyond my capacity. So she got the air in the tire, and then she grabbed my cell phone and she said, "I'm going to put you on where it says no highways. You can't drive over 50 to get home." So I got home that night, and I'm still not recovered from the human kindness of this angel and her name is Erin, and she works in downtown Moonlight Mania. She's covered with tattoos. She has numerous rings in her noses, and that is my new angel. Thank you.
My name is Joy. My son wrote something to me yesterday that I was kind of blown over with, and I was told to talk fast. Dear Mom, I know you and I have a wonderful tradition of letting the other know how much we mean to each other. The intention of this letter is to continue that tradition. I believe there are no greater gifts that we can give each other and ourselves than to express our appreciation. My initial inspiration for writing was how you were there for Erica and me, that's his wife, when we were moving. More than your support, it was the realization that your desire to support us was your inspiration. This may sound nuanced, but the distinction is important. The favor is secondary. What is so precious is the love, which is primary. Thanks.
I'm Dave Wells, and this will be brief.
Thank you.
As you're probably aware, the Mountain Express conducts an annual reader survey to determine the best of Western North Carolina in several dozen categories. This year, the award for Best Therapist went to our daughter, Sarah. So, Candle of Joy.
Actually, I was going to light one for me because it's so good to have you back. Yeah. Surgery, a fib. We missed you.
So this is a candle of celebration. Thank you, Diane. And I'm delighted to be back with my tribe. I'm a decade into that chapter of our lives called the Encore. And I felt pretty darn good for 10 years. And July 25th, I got a big wake-up call thanks to a colonoscopy. And I was in stage 2 colon cancer. And through a number of tests, surgery was kind of lined up for August 31st. And the good news, it happened, and the bad was cut out. The complication was that I went into AFib. I have no history of heart issues at all. That complicated the surgery and complicated the recovery significantly. So Tuesday, the day after Labor Day, I finally was able to be safely anesthetized, and we looked in the backside of my heart, no blood clots, and then they shocked my heart back into rhythm. So that was the sort of the additional dimension to my recovery, because when you're in AFib, you're dizzy, you're lightheaded. I was a fall risk. So I finally came home Tuesday night, and this is Sunday morning, and I'm thankful to be here with my people, and every day I'm a little bit better, and I'm looking forward to maybe another couple of decades in this encore chapter of my life. Thank you.
I will ask Diane to light 2 candles. One for my friend Tracy, who was my neighbor who took me to the hospital when I had COVID and really saved my life. Well, the other night, she over-enthusiastically greeted her longtime friend's new Doberman Pinscher, which bit her on the nose and the hand, and she ended up in the emergency room. The candle of concern for her is tempered with a candle of humor that, with all the stitches on her nose, it looks like she's wearing a clown costume. But she is recovering, and keep her in your hearts. And the other candle is for all those people who have joys or concerns that they don't wish to share in public and who are not lighting a candle. Light one for them.
Some people are awfully anxious to jump ahead of the game.
Go ahead, Jen.
I'm James Sheeler. Diane, I'd like you to light a candle of, all right, of Ofui.
Fooey.
Ofui. David, or as he is alternatively known, Dave Wells and Alice are real foodies. They love to go out to restaurants and enjoy good food. Well, I was just chomping at the bit for the last couple of weeks to tell them about a food experience I had over next to Earth Fair. It's just really, really good food. And so I finally catch up with them this morning, and Dave or David, whichever personality he's using right now, or maybe it was Alice, informed me they'd already eaten there. And once counts, Alice. So that's my Ofui can.
All right, if you will rise now as you are willing and able. We'll sing hymn number 67, We Sing Now Together.
Rejoice in God,
The order of service says that this reading is being given by Dr. Dwight Mullen, but clearly it's not. That is a typo. So I'm doing this reading that I think is appropriate for the topic today. It's one we don't often hear from or of in this church. It's from Deuteronomy, which for you who aren't particularly knowledgeable about the Bible is the fifth and final book of the Torah, or the Pentateuch. And it covers Moses' description or reiteration, his commentary on existing Jewish law. Bear in mind that slavery, or at least indentured servitude, was legal in ancient Israel. But slavery or servitude also carried with it an obligation of compensation. In Deuteronomy chapter 15, verses 12 through 14, Moses said, "And if thy brother be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him go free from thee. And when thou sendest him out free from thee, thou shalt not let him go away empty. Thou shalt furnish him liberally out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy winepress, of that wherewith the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, thou shalt give unto him." Now we would like to take up an offering so that the work of this wonderful congregation and all the work we do both inside and outside this building may continue.
I've been lately thinking about my life's time, all the things I've done and how it's been, and I can't help believing in my own mind. I know I'm gonna hate to see it end. I've seen a lot of sunshine, slept out in the rain, spent a night or two all on my own. I've known my share of pleasures, had myself some friends, spent these many years in my own home. I have to say it now, it's been a good life all in all. It's really fine to have a chance to hang around, to lie there by the fire and watch the evening tire, while all my friends and I together sit and pass the pipe around, and talk of poems and prayers and promises, things that we believe in, how sweet it is to love someone, how right it is to care, how long it's been since yesterday. What about tomorrow? What about our dreams and all the memories we share? The days they pass so quickly now, the nights are seldom long. The time around me whispers when it's cold. The changes somehow frighten me, still I have to smile. It turns me on to think of growing old. For though my life's been good to me, there's still so much to do, so many things my mind has never known. I'd like to sail the ocean, I'd like to fly away and dance across the mountains on the moon. I have to say it now, it's been a good life all in all. It's really fun to have a chance to hang around, to lie there by the fire and watch the evening tire, while all my friends and I together sit and pass the pipe around and talk of poems and prayers and promises, things that we believe in. How sweet it is to love someone, how right it is to care, how long it's been since yesterday. What about tomorrow? What about our dreams and all the memories we share?
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Larry, and thank you, everyone. Dwight Mullen and his wife, Professor Dolly Jenkins Mullen, were among the very first African-American faculty hired by UNC Asheville in the mid-1980s, when all of the University of North Carolina system was beginning a process of desegregation. The Mullens were a remarkable team. They both became tenured professors in the political science department, and at various times each one served as chair of that department, and both taught a wide variety of classes. Dwight himself taught for 37 years, and he impacted at least 2 generations of very grateful students. Dwight arrived at UNCA after spending the first 3 years of his teaching career in northern Nigeria, where he had gone right after receiving his PhD from Atlanta University. This was after the military government of Nigeria had allowed a civilian government to form again. And he was called in to help with revising the section of the Constitution there that dealt with local government. So he trained local government officials in public policy and public administration, until 3 years later the military decided to take over the country again with another coup, and he came back to the US and landed at UNC Asheville. Among the courses Dwight has taught were public policy, American politics, African and African American political studies. He oversaw research on the State of Black Asheville. He's chaired panels and presented papers at the National Conference of Black Political Scientists. And he's been very intimately involved in trying to ensure that government services and opportunities in this region are made available to underserved populations. I've known Dwight and Dolly Mullen for so many years, I can't remember when or under what circumstances we first met. Maybe at the YMI or Martin Luther King Association or other racial justice activities. But he has always been someone I admire and esteem. And for 40 years, he's made an important and very measurable difference to the community of Asheville and Buncombe County in western North Carolina. So please give him a very warm UU Black Mountain welcome.
I think this works. Yes? Thank you. My friend, it's my friend Andy, I told him that it's always shocking because I don't know what people know. And when in the classroom, you approach students and you meet them at whatever level they're on, and you try to get them to go in the direction and as far as you can take them. And for 37 years, I had never done the math. It was that long. And I enjoyed every minute of it. It was just one of those things that have naturally led to reparations in Asheville-Buncombe County. It was not planned. It wasn't deliberate. It just happened. It just happened. Just like this morning, it just happened. I mean, we did not talk about the readings. And here he is touching on the very reading that I wanted to open my talk to you about, is that reparations is predicated on Mosaic law, among many other things. But the laws of Moses, he cited Deuteronomy. I was going to cite Leviticus. But I was also going to point out the story of the children of Israel as they were released from bondage. The people of Egypt piled gold on them. How do you think they built the golden calf when they were at the bottom of Mount Sinai? That was from reparations for so many years of labor. And then we talk about, the idea of where did that come from? Where did Moses get it from? Well, spiritually, we can say he got it from God. Historically, he got it from Egypt, Greece, and Rome. Because in Egypt, ancient Greece, and Rome, you cannot do wrong and benefit from those harms. It's not permitted. You cannot live profitably from ill-gotten gain. And so you compensate individuals and societies and groups that were harmed as you accumulated your wealth. That's ancient law. Or it's God. But the point being is that, where does it come from Asheville-Buncombe County? Because whenever I bring those kinds of things up, you can see their eyes glazing over. That was then, this is now. I wasn't there. Good. And so here I am looking again at Andy's readings, and I'm thinking as he's reading this thing from John Locke, when I came to UNCA, they didn't tell us we were desegregating the campus. I didn't know. I just accepted the job because it was the first one that was offered as I was trying to support 3 children in my family. We were coming in, and we hadn't planned on coming back, but we found ourselves back and then looking for a job. And UNCA was the only predominantly white institution I applied to. All the others were HBCUs, and they were waiting. I had other offers from them, but the actual contract was not in hand. So I said, let me sign this thing with UNCA, and then I'll leave when those contracts are funded and come through. And that never happened. And in the process of staying at UNCA for year after year, thinking that each year was going to be my last, I was offered this position of going to Oxford for the summer following the acceptance of my dissertation. And I worked at the Rhodes House in Oxford. And part of the Oxford University system is the Bodleian Library. Well, they call it the Bod. The Bod is so ancient, it's so old, they've forgotten what's in there. They really don't. They don't know what's in there. So it looks like a church. You can see, you can imagine the monks like this, because it's cold in the wintertime. And indeed, the scholars wear robes. They wear robes because they have a function to keep you warm. While I was there, some scholars dug into the Bod and found the original documents from John Locke of his later life after the Second Treatise. He becomes a founding member of the Royal African Company, RAC. And he said, what is the RAC? The RAC was the British state corporation that allowed for the purchase, transportation, and sale of Africans in the New World. He was a founding member of that. That's how he got rich. He was one of the wealthiest faculty members at Oxford. His painting is still on the wall. And here I am studying at the Rhodes House. It was Cecil Rhodes. the killer, the murderer of thousands and thousands of uncounted Africans as they colonized Rhodesia, South Africa, etc., etc. The Kimberley Diamond Mines, that's Cecil Rhodes. And so this contradiction, this feeling that there's something there that's worth striving and working hard towards, while simultaneously looking at what it costs, the damage and destruction that it caused, is at the heart of reparations that I'm doing here. It's so difficult. This is by far the most difficult work I've ever done in Asheville-Buncombe County. I mean, I've been over the world. I've done all kinds of stuff. I grew up in Watts. This is a pale shadow of what I'm doing now. Because folk don't want to acknowledge the roots of what they're dealing with. And so how do you pull it up by the roots? You can't. And people have never talked to each other. The Reparations Commission is composed of 24 or so African Americans from Asheville-Buncombe County. Asheville City appointed 5, Buncombe County appointed 5, and then the legacy community, the historically black communities, appointed the remaining numbers, 15, I believe. And these folk who are all black have never talked to each other. They know each other because they went to the same schools. Their kids went to the same schools. Some of these generations date back into the antebellum era of black people in Asheville-Buncombe County. But necessarily, because of the divisions within the community, they go to different churches, they live in different neighborhoods, they have different backgrounds, they've done their travels, they came back home, take care of parents, all kinds of things that explain life have caused us not necessarily to know each other well enough to discuss the hard issue of racial justice, just within a black community. And so it's taken a year just to get as far as we've gotten, just to know each other, just to trust each other enough to tell each other what you really think. And I'm sitting in the middle of it. You're talking about some hard work. Hard work. And then I have to take those ideas only as recommendations to the city and to the county as they are vetted. And what I mean by that is that, and I hope I'm not dealing so much of the sort of details of what we're dealing with, but you need to know to explain what you might see in the news in the coming weeks. Is that this vetted information coming out of the Reparations Commission is seen as going through the lawyers' hands. And the lawyers are looking at it to see if it's constitutional or if it's illegal or if it's what we're doing is feasible. Another very, very soft and amorphous words. And let me give you an example, just to clarify. We're supposed to do reparations without talking about race. Because you're colorblind, right? It's all like, it has to fit the whole population equally. Excuse me, did enslavement, did segregation, did mass incarceration, did lynching, did urban renewal, did any of those affect us all equally? But now the language of the anti-civil rights movement dominates legal proceedings. And that's the language of the anti-civil rights movement, to be colorblind. That's not King's language. That's not the language of even Malcolm. That's not the language of the movement. They were there specifically to end Jim Crow segregation because no one else would end it. The court had ruled it in 1954. It took 10 years of carrying on in the street before the Congress validated in 1964 with the Civil Rights Act. And these things take time. We've been given 2 years for the Reparations Commission. 25 people, 2 years to get on the same page, to make recommendations that will then be vetted before it goes to the City Council and the County Commission. And then they will decide which ones to apply and which ones we can pay for out of a fund that has $2.1 million contributed by the city for the sale of land, and another $2 million that was budgeted in this year's fiscal year budget by the county. So it's about $4.2 million, plus the promise of $500,000 additionally from the city and $500,000 additionally from the county every year for here on until they change their minds. And those are the resources we're dealing with. Those are the time frames. Those are the individuals, the primary actors that are constituting reparations here in Asheville. So the question becomes, what did this even grow out of? How did you even get them this far? Because as chair of the commission, I've been dealing with all kinds of people calling me and emailing me, just cold emails. And I've learned not to just 86 everything. I try not to delete immediately things that I don't recognize, because you can't. I just can't anymore. For example, there was this email I got about a month ago about the World Cafe. Now, I'm looking at World Cafe, and I know World Cafe from NPR, but it was World Cafe. Why would they want me? It turns out that they had heard about Asheville reparations. Because you see, Asheville and Buncombe County, we're further down the road than almost any place in the world. I promise you, as awful a picture as I'm painting, this is better than most places. And so here we are with the World Cafe. And so I agree, okay, sure, this is Zoom things. I don't have to fly to Ohio State to do anything, so I'll do this Zoom. It turned out to be a 2.5 hour, almost 3 hour process, but a good 2 hours of discussion. And it involved the individuals from Minneapolis, as in George Floyd. They're forming a reparations commission. And it involved people from Los Angeles. They're forming a reparations commission, and it was on this death's doorstep. And they were wanting to talk to Asheville about how did we proceed. I sang like a bird. I sang like a bird. And then they look out, because they were going to mess with your names. Is it my pen? Maybe I should use that, because I'm messing up. Maybe I should use this. Can I use this? Is that better? Yeah, there we go. And so what they were asking is, first, they wanted to know, how do we get an all-black commission? They wanted to know that. And we said, well, George Floyd had just happened, and folk were tearing up downtown. They were painting different colors and breaking windows, even though the police responded with rubber bullets and tear gas. Basically, what they were doing was painting and breaking windows. But that was enough pressure for the city and for the county in, was it 2020, July 2020 and August 2020, to pass resolutions that apologized for the city and subsequently for the county, apologized for them participating in enslavement, and they apologized for their participation in Jim Crow segregation and lynching, and then in the urban renewal process. That was part of the reparations resolution that they apologized for. They also apologized for urban renewal. And the last thing in the apology was an apology for systemic racism. And what they meant by that was the systemic racism, the things we do every day. We do it as a community, because no one person can adequately do it for themselves. You see, so we decide as a community to do it together. That's how public policy forms. That's what it is. It's that these are things you can't really operate on yourself. That's not a good idea in terms of health and wellness. You can't honestly teach yourself at the university level all knowledge. And so we agree to do this for each other, with each other. And so when it's couched in racism, it affects education, according to the resolutions that were passed by the city and the county. It affected education, health and wellness, housing, economic development, and justice. Those are just 5 of the primary areas that we as a community operate together. But you see, when those communities first, when those policies were first initiated, it did not include Black people. Segregation prohibited that, or it placed you way down at the bottom. We are still living with the results of it. And so my students in 2006, 2007 began to ask the question of what would happen in Asheville City, Buncombe County, what would happen if Hurricane Katrina had hit this city? Who would be stuck at the Civic Center? Who would be able to escape to safety? And in their process of asking, the reason why was that people had been evacuated from New Orleans. There were several sitting in my classes, and it was clearly traumatized. And so we began to ask these kinds of questions as a discussion in class. The students and I, throughout the syllabus, we rewrote it, and it evolved into this project called the State of Black Asheville. And these students divided themselves into those 5 areas: education, housing, healthcare, economic status, and criminal justice. And they looked as groups together over what would happen by race and by gender. Are these public policy areas having equal outcomes? Not one did. All reflected their roots in Jim Crow segregation, if not enslavement. All reflected. And then they decided to talk to the policymakers. So they asked, please watch my time, I don't need to go over, but this is an interesting thing I need to tell you about. They did this. They decided to have a conference during Black History Month following the King holiday. And they wanted to present their findings to the school board, to the Department of Health and Human Services and the hospital. They wanted to talk to the realtors and to public housing communities. They wanted to talk to Asheville Police Department, Buncombe County Sheriffs, and they wanted to talk to the Chamber of Commerce. Chamber of Commerce did not show up. 400 other people did. Now, if you're familiar with Asheville, getting 400 people in the same place is not an easy thing, especially over something as difficult as this. Those students had arranged for vans, for buses that come in from public housing communities. They had arranged for the public policy makers to meet and talk with the people who were receiving disparate outcomes. It's still on YouTube, because I got UNCA to film it, and they figured it out the second year, and they wouldn't do it anymore. But the first time they filmed it, and the students got a hold of it and put it on YouTube. And you can still get it, the State of Black Asheville 2007. You can see the effects of disparate education. You can hear the numbers. And every year after that, it got worse. As the students refined their abilities and as the numbers began piling up, 10 years later, the first government response happened. It was Buncombe County with the Isaac Coleman initiatives. And what they did was give money to particularized localities within the city and county in order for the community to get together and talk about how can we remedy these things. We began talking about it 10 years after the students started that. The Community Reparations Commission grew out of that. So between the pressure of the George Floyd demonstrations and the demonstrated lack of concern for the disparate outcomes of public policy areas, the times were just ripe. It just happened. And I found myself just sitting there, and people would ask me to apply for the commission, and I said I would, but I can't. I don't have time. I'm retired. Y'all, when you spell it for you spell it R-E. Anyway, it's just, they conspired against me and elected me chair of the commission, and these are their friends. These are friends. Just threw me to the wolves. And here I am, a year and a half later, looking at almost 8 more months, of getting something to the city and to the county that it begins to address it. Well, we have 2 things that are going. It looks like we're going to do 3, and we're having that before we get into the particulars of each of the areas of public policy. And those 3 were these. 1, the promise of funding. And that's where the $500,000 each year from the city and county came from. The second was, you must stop the harm. And so the commission unanimously sent to the city and county request asking them to audit themselves. Which offices that you are using public monies for have continued to defy court orders, law, societal, accreditation agency standards, etc., other types of measures to determine the equitable outcomes of your areas. Which of your offices in compliance? Negative way of saying it, why are you being with disparate outcomes? Why are you continuing to fund it? And they were looking at race and they were looking at gender. Let me tell you why. Is that, you say, what do white women have? That's not the point. It's not white women. We're looking at black women. Because you see, if you look at race and you look at gender, you assume it covers black women. It doesn't. It's counterintuitive. You would think that if you're looking at race and then you're looking at gender, and black women would be double covered. They're double absent. You see. And so this audit that was approved by the state, approved by the city and by the county, is selected a firm. We're in the midst of collecting data. I don't know if that data is going to be finished by the time we actually conclude our first term, because you see the third proposal that's coming is this. The commissioners are asking for the commission to be made permanent. And it's coming. It'll be in the news. You'll see. And when it comes, you'll be able to do something. And I'm going to jump to the end because there's things I need to ask you to do. Because I always get asked, what can we do? What can you do? I need to say this because when it comes out, it comes together in an atmosphere in which we need help. One of the things that makes it so difficult is that I'm constantly talking to the media. Have you been chair of the Reparations Commission and tried to explain a colorblind outcome? I'm not even trying. And so I say to them in very clear, specific terms that these are African American concerns, but they are not closing the door to what I expect to become indigenous concerns. I expect it to become brown concerns. Latinx population also needs to have repairs done. Corrections made to historic injustices. And so this is not I get, you lose. It is we get and we will benefit just like education is supposed to do, just like housing is supposed to do, just like healthcare, just like economic development, just like justice. What benefits me benefits you because we're all part of the same community. Now, you see, in the shadow of segregation, that makes no sense. What I get is because white folk lose it. No. Because we never thought about it before. What you got wasn't because you thought about what I was losing. I mean, I come from two lines of enslaved people. My father's people were out of Mississippi. The only reason why we were free was because my great-grandfather, not two greats, my one great-grandfather ran away and joined Grant when he marched through Mississippi and kept with him. And as a compensation, the Mullens kept the Mullen plantation. Or should I say, the black Mullens kept the Mullen plantation because the Irish white Mullens fled when Grant came through and never came back. My people are still there. In terms of my mother's people, and this is with almost all African Americans, because you see, if post-Civil War, immigration from black places was prohibited. And so black people are almost all rooted in some type of enslavement background, colonized background. So my mother's people were out of Texas and all that, and it's not because that's where they originated, it's because they originated in Virginia. And they joined, like I would have advised them not to, but the forces of the Revolutionary Army during the Constitutional era. And they were promised freedom. Well, at the end of the war, my people, my mother's people, were part of the compromise with the British and the Americans over who's going to pay for this. And so they were given as reparations to the loss of property by British and sold back into slavery. And it eventually ended in Texas. You see, reparations is looking you in the face. And I understand why it's difficult. Because one of the challenges, and this is what I wanted to present to you all, is that in addition to the legal framework being a challenge, we're also looking at what do we do in terms of the future. African Americans, at the end of the Civil War, at the end of Jim Crow segregation, part of the rationale for lynching, part of what drove segregation was that there was always in the thought of the general population that revenge would come. that we would do what was done. That is not African. That is not how the traditional Africa is. And it's been in our line of thinking for as far back as I'd never put it together. I just assumed that you're supposed to do good to those who do evil. You know, your ancestors will look out for you. Why would you want to go to heaven being like a demon? I mean, there are all kinds of rationale that float within the community to explain why revenge was never there. Anger was. So you get a Nat Turner under David Walker. You get a Malcolm. But it's justified anger. Yeah? So you start talking about these challenges of how do we reconcile the behavior and writings of Allah and his behavior as an enslaver. Because Thomas Jefferson followed in his track. He literally plagiarized John Locke and did the same thing. Wrote the Declaration of Independence while being the largest slaveholder in the state of Virginia. Yeah? How do you reconcile living with black people when black people were inferior? How do you live with inferior people as equals? And so it calls for a fundamental challenge to our psychic and our thinking of what brought us here. For Asheville reparations and Buncombe County reparations, there's some more fundamental things. Who's responsible? Who's responsible for this disparity? Not just the public policy agencies. Do you know that that government and law only enables the private sector? Government and law, they have their agencies where we're all communal and doing our education and our health care and our community together. We're doing justice and criminal justice and we're doing economic development together. But the heart of segregation, the heart of enslavement, the heart of this, that was at a purely private sector level. It was just sanctioned by law. So when we are absent of the private sector at the table discussing reparations today, there's a problem. And we need help. Let me give you the third one. Community engagement. I can enter this building and I can talk to you. I've been talking with white folk particularly since I've been in Asheville. I can go to the black community and I can go to find communities to talk to, bring people together. That's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story. I even have to change my language. I changed my presentation so that I can be heard. And you will be surprised at some of the barriers, and I know I'm reaching time. I promise you just 2 more minutes. In the black community, I'm sometimes very illegitimate because I spent 37 years at UNCA. They said, if you're out there that long, something's wrong with you. You're either corrupt or crazy. One or the other. Now, I'm probably not, but the thing is that I tried to use it in the right direction. And what does it do to help one to miss it? That's how you do. But this community engagement thing rips you apart because of the extremes of the opposites at work. It's just extreme. I took the last few weeks off. I refused to do email. I refused to answer my phone. I went away to California. I just took it off. I did self-care. I did. Went to Palo Alto. The day I got there, Hurricane Hillary hit. You can run if you want to. That whale is going to be waiting. He's going to swallow you and take you right back. And so here's Hurricane Hillary. I called my friends who I was planning on visiting, and a 5.1 earthquake hit right where they were. I kid you not. I kid you not. So, we came back, and I had, my email had blessed me with 2,500. 2,500. And so I wanted a candle lit. Not for my email. I wanted a candle lit for my wife because I went through my email. I cleared 1,000 as she went through her second shoulder surgery. The first one failed. So she's not here today. Dollar would be here, but she, you know, we do things together. But she's in recovery. And those things are there, and I'm taking them in a very spiritual way by saying that, you know, when you're headed in the right direction, those are the biggest mountains to climb. You just start. So let me give you a little hope. Let me end with an example of something that caught us off guard. And I so there are two things. One is education looks like it's being addressed, the disparate outcomes. And it's being addressed in two ways: by holding Asheville City and Buncombe County schools accountable for the black children, brown children that they have currently. We're finding that particularly the poor, lower economic, the free lunch white folk are also benefiting. But we also know that there's no history of trusting whether or not that's going to continue in Asheville-Buncombe County. I mean, come on now. As soon as the superintendent goes, which should be like 15, 20 minutes, we know that policies change as individuals change power. So we've done, when I say we, I'm on the board of the Peak Academy. The state allowed us to have a charter that basically is a black charter, because we are committed to closing disparity in outcomes of academic excellence. We want black children to be academically excellent. And because those folk who are not academically excellent are disproportionately black, it looks as though, and the media has come at me heels up about, oh, we're just having quotas and it's a reverse discrimination. And then I answered, you will not address me in the language of people who were designed and meant to do anti-civil rights legislation. I remember, I was there. And so here we are, loggerheads. And the challenge, when we need help, you can't talk without lawyers. So at $1,000 a clip, I have to defend my right to free speech. $1,000 an hour. You see, you just nibble, 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 nibble. But the Peak Academy is accepting all comers. And we have, last year we had 89 children. This year we have 177. Yeah, we are bursting at the seams. And so our needs have multiplied accordingly. You're welcome to come visit the school. We have to delimit it to Wednesday mornings. But if you're interested, we're on Haywood Avenue in Asheville. The second major accomplishment, I think, was pure friends and people sitting down at my dining room table, and we said, there are some students who need help with tuition. And out of that conversation grew the tuition reparations pilot. It's part of the State of Black Asheville. And what we've done is partnered with My Daddy Taught Me That, a nonprofit. So the State of Black Asheville and My Daddy Taught Me That have just chosen just a half a dozen students we knew who were in college, who were looking at massive student debt. And we put the call out. We just said, this is a pilot, it's connected with this, that, and the other. I'm happy to put my name on it, I'm happy to put other folks' names on it, but this is what we need. This kid needed $8,000 to get back to A&T for a junior year. We needed money for the students, these twins out of Asheville, who were graduates of Asheville City Schools, who are now in medical school. And it just goes on and on and on, right? Do you know that we now have not only paid their things, we now have another several $1,000s looking for some more students, because we put it as personal reparations. And so we said, we have to give the people a chance to say, yes, we believe in this and this is what we immediately can do. Had no idea if there would be a response, and lo and behold, there is one. And I'm here to say to you that I expect it to keep coming. Not just money for reparations, for tuition reparations, but I expect it to keep coming because I know this community, and I know that there are more people who are looking at benefiting and looking at it grow and thrive than there are people who are jackasses. and I think that this is 11 o'clock, I'm not supposed to be from a jackass. But the idea of understanding where you come from and who you are and why you are here all get to the final part of my message to you this morning. And I thought that you know, this was the one song, and this is the first time I've ever asked for it to be sung by people who are not predominantly black. I've never done that before. But what this final hymn is, it's on page, it's 149, but it's 149. 149. And the title of the song is "Lift Every Voice and Sing." It's written by individuals who are involved with the Harlem Renaissance. James Weldon Johnson, he was good friends with W.E.B. Du Bois. And for years, and I still call it this. I mean, when you say "Lift Every Voice and Sing," I know what you're talking about. But we called it the Negro National Anthem. That's what we called it. And you have to understand, this was written at a time of lynchings. This was written during the reinstallation of a racially hierarchical society through Jim Crow segregation. This is when this came through. This was written by a guy out of Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville was doing still the same stuff. And so as we sing it, I wish you would think about the shadows of the people who have always sung this. And they sang it together, but not across those contradictory areas. I'm just asking you to consider, as you sing this, what maybe others might be thinking that are on the other side of these voices that are lifting and singing. Oh yes, that's part of it. You gotta stand up. You gotta stand up. I gotta stand up. It's not just because it's a hill, but you always gotta stand up for Negro National Anthem. Wherever you are, stand up for it. Please.
Forever.
closing words. If it's difficult to do that when you're singing, but I will, because there's one thing I wanted you to do, or at least consider doing. On October the 7th, at UNCA, there will be, sponsored by the city and the county and Africana Studies at UNCA, a Reparations Summit. It's an all-day affair from 10 o'clock to 3, and you are cordially invited to participate. October the 7th, 10 to 3 at UNCA.
Thank you, Professor Mullen.